Hello and welcome to another edition of The Wright Experience. I'm Dr. William T. Wright Jr., the founder and host of this show. As we matriculate into our second century of episodes, we're excited to bring you an amazing guest. Our guest tonight is currently serving as the superintendent of the 8th largest district in the United States. And we're pleased to have him here tonight on this episode as a returning guest. My guest tonight is Dr. Tony B. Watlington, Sr. Dr. Watlington was appointed superintendent of the School District of Philadelphia, the nation's 8th largest school district with nearly 200,000 students in June of 2022. A collaborative and results-oriented leader, Dr. Watlington began his career by launching an aggressive entry plan composed of 3 phases. Phase 1 included a listening and learning tour with 90 sessions in his first 100 days. Phase 2 included a transition team composed of 100 diverse Philadelphians and K-12 national experts who issued a formal report with short and long-term recommendations. And Phase 3, which includes the development of an aggressive 5-year strategic planning process to position the school district to become the fastest improving large urban school district in the country. Prior to joining the School District of Philadelphia, Dr. Watlington served as superintendent of the Rowan Salisbury Schools, North Carolina's first and only renewal school district, where he launched a new equity-focused strategic plan and accountability model with multiple measures. Under his leadership, the district's 3rd grade literacy ranking among the state's 115 school districts rose from 96 in 2019 to 74th in 2021. The percent of schools that met or exceeded state growth targets increased from 55% to 71%, and the percent of schools that exceeded state growth targets increased from 6 to 29%. Additionally, the district ranked number 4 amongst 115 school districts in the state for career and technical education concentrator students, and Dr. Watlington and his team were featured on the NBC Nightly News for innovative leadership during the COVID-19 pandemic as a result of efforts to keep schools safely open and to mitigate disruption. Dr. Watlington also previously served as chief of schools in Guilford County Schools, the 3rd largest school district in North Carolina and the 47th largest in the United States. He was responsible for improving systems that led to excellence and equity for all students, which improved academic outcomes for all students at all grade levels and for student groups. Dr. Watlington received his undergraduate degree in history education from North Carolina A&T State University, a master's degree in American political history from the Ohio State University, a master's of school administration, and a doctoral degree in educational leadership, by the way, from UNC Chapel Hill. He also holds training certificates from Harvard and Yale universities and is a member of the National Urban Superintendents Academy, sponsored by Howard University and the American Association of School Administrators. Dr. Watlington began his career as a history teacher in Guilford County, North Carolina in 1994 and was named District Teacher of the Year in 1998. He was also honored as the North Carolina PTA Administrator of the Year in 2004 and has received many, many other awards. Dr. Watlington is also the proud father of 3 sons, Tony Jr., Aaron, and Caleb, and is a lifetime member of the Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity. At this time, I'd like to welcome to the Wright Experience, back to the Wright Experience, my brother, Dr. Tony Watlington.
Good evening, Reverend Dr. Wright, my brother, Alpha brother. Good to see you, sir.
I don't know about the Reverend, but I'll take the rest, I guess. How you doing
That's
tonight?
what they call you down there in North Carolina. I know.
That's all right. That's all right. That's not the first time.
Good to be with you.
Anyway, it's good to talk with you. I'm pleased and honored to get you back up here again. When we last talked, I think you were about to transition to the School District of Philadelphia and take on that immense responsibility. And now We're looking at about a year. So talk to us, first of all, about the transition from, a mid-sized district, I guess we would call Rowan Salisbury, to the work that you're doing now, and how it's been so far.
Absolutely. Again, first I want to say it's a pleasure to be with you again, Dr. Wright. One of the things I've learned in my career, having been superintendent in Rowan Salisbury schools, that has between 18 and 19,000 students. The benefit of working in a mid-size or slightly smaller district is you might be responsible for academics, transportation, Title I, Title IV, and lots of other stuff. And so you get a chance to really understand school districts from top to bottom, bottom to top, sideways, and you know what's going on in the school district from a lot of different perspectives. So I think it's a strength when you've served as a superintendent or a senior leader in a district the size of Rowan Salisbury, and quite frankly, some a little smaller and some a little bit bigger. And so to transition to the school district of Philadelphia, which has under 200,000 students in the traditional public schools and the public charter schools here, all of which are under the umbrella of our Board of Education. It gives you an opportunity to really kind of know to expand the scale of good strategies that work in districts that might be smaller. In fact, so I think having worked in a smaller school district is absolutely a strength. And I learned that during the transition here. Second thing I learned in transition is that it's really important, regardless of the size of a district, to be able to really connect with parents and communities and the staff and teachers and principals and support staff. I know you've always been a champion for making sure we value and respect the people who work in schools. And we absolutely are taking a page out of your book there, Dr. Wright, and making sure that we make those connections and value our people. Greatest resource. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yes, sir. So, approximately how many employees serve those 200,000 students?
We have 216 schools in the traditional side,
Wow.
and we have some 19,000 employees across the school district of Philadelphia.
So you're talking about an urban system. You're talking about, I think we read, the 8th largest in the nation. What are some of the amazing things about the district that you have uncovered that might be of interest to our listeners in the year that you've been there so far?
Well, let me tell you some things that are amazing about the school district of Philadelphia. First and foremost, under the leadership of this Board of Education, I'm pleased to be able to tell you that this district is a good steward of the taxpayers' money.
Okay.
In fact, we have the best Moody's financial grade investment rating that we've had in 40 years. And just this year, our investment grade credit outlook was upgraded from stable to positive. So we are really, really, really thrilled about that. Good stewards of the public tax dollars. Number two, one of the things that's interesting about the school district, and I think is a real strength here, is in North Carolina, you've got school resource officers in the high schools funded by the state, and in many of our middle schools, there are generally no armed uniformed police officers in our schools K-12. We have unarmed school safety officers that are under the leadership of our chief of safety, who is a civilian, a former first deputy chief commissioner in the police department. And so I just think it speaks to this myth that urban schools are somehow unsafe, out of control. The Joe Clark lean on me thing. Now, no matter what size of school, if you're in a high school, there are challenges anywhere.
Sure.
From a district with 3,000 students all the way up to one with 200,000 students. But the district does a really good job of restorative practices, really trying to focus in on social and emotional learning supports for our young people. And so I've seen those restorative practices in practice here. Third thing I would say about the school district, and I'm sure pleased with this, Dr. Wright, this year, we had an intense focus on improving student attendance and improving teacher attendance. Needed to improve student attendance because we've got to significantly improve the number of our young people who are in school 90% of the month. And we need to do the same thing for teachers. Our students and teachers stepped up, and the percentages increased from 57% to 60% for our students. And the percentage for teachers who have regular attendance or 90% or more over the month, each month for the year, increased by some 6 percentage points from 6.5 percentage points from 70, from the low 70s to the mid 80s to the low 80s. And so I was really pleased that that happened. And then finally, this year we worked together as a team here in the school district to reduce the number of students who dropped out of school by 265 students. We put a face on our young people and a name to this data. And so I'm really pleased that we are reclaiming more of our young people and not letting them just drop out and disappear in the wind, as was the case in a lot of places during the pandemic. So a lot of good things happening here in the school district of Philadelphia. Although it's a historically underfunded school district, we've got some very fine principals and teachers and support staff, and I'm excited to be their partner in this journey.
That's amazing, and to hear you talk about some of the amazing things that have begun and you've been able to continue and so forth. Sounds like you've created a really good foundation upon which to build. And that first year, because I started here in Sumter, South Carolina, about the same time that you went to Philly, and that first year, I think all we can do is learn what we can learn and try to build
Absolutely.
foundational things to then build on. So that's amazing and great to hear. So, Dr. Watlington, let's talk a little bit about maybe you all don't have this problem in the northeastern part of the United States, but how about this whole thing of teacher recruitment and retention? Any ideas about how we get that going? Or do you have an issue in Philly?
Well, listen, let me just go ahead and tell you up front, Dr. Wright, we got the same problem. In fact, we might be in a little bit of a tougher space, whereas the pipeline for people going to a 4-year institution to become a teacher, whether it's public or private, is down by 50% nationally. It's down by 66% here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
Wow.
For years, Pennsylvania did not have reciprocity for those very fine teachers in North Carolina and South Carolina. And so we're having to work really hard to expand our footprint. We're working really hard and strategically, Dr. Wright, to get out of Pennsylvania to come down south. We need to come down to Sumter and see if we can find a few teachers. Or at least South Carolina State, North Carolina A&T, all those, whereas most of the historically Black colleges and universities where 50% of our teachers come from across the country, at least teachers of color, they're in the South. Lincoln University and Cheney University, the first two HBCUs, are here in Pennsylvania. Lincoln School of Education is focused on the graduate program. So we're working with the president there to see if we can't have some conversations about a pipeline to get the undergraduate program back up and running. And we have a really good partnership with Cheney University here in Pennsylvania. We're paying, and we're using some federal ESSER dollars. We're paying for some of our paraprofessionals, the people who already work in schools. They know our kids. They do a lot of different jobs. We just pumped a couple million additional dollars in this year to pay for them to get their teaching licenses through Cheney University. And here's the good part, Dr. Wright. They come out of that experience debt-free. Still not enough. Still not enough teachers. So I know you're not going to let us come down there and get any teachers out of Sumter, South Carolina, but maybe we can go over to Greensboro or Charleston. How about Greensboro or Charleston?
And we started school today too, so that I definitely need mine for sure.
Now, we don't start the school year here this year, Dr. Wright, until September 5th. We're doing a big campaign now. Next year, we will start the school year prior to the Labor Day holiday, but we're a little bit late this go round.
Yeah, this is the earliest we've started where I am in some years, and we're going to see the benefit we know with with putting ourselves in a situation where we'll be at the end of the first semester before Christmas, and all those things that
Get those
we are
exams in.
for students. That's right. That's right.
Now, is that new? I'm just curious, Dr. Wright, because as I recall, I don't recall any district in North Carolina starting quite that early. Even Rowan
That's correct.
Salisbury.
And I'm in South Carolina, and so South Carolina districts are moving towards more of what they call what we call in the state a modified calendar, which allows you to be able to start the school year earlier. And so I think that folks across the nation need to understand the value in that,
Sure.
Or at least have the flexibility to be able to do that if they can, for sure.
Now, I'll tell you one other thing we're doing here, Dr. Wright, and under our new strategic plan entitled Accelerate Philly, we have a strategy. One of the key strategic actions is to launch a year-round pilot at up to 10 schools across the city so that we can eliminate the summer slide for our young people. And we're also looking at perhaps extending the school year and the number of days beyond 180. We have the number eight ranked high school in the country that according to U.S. News and World Report. We've got a number of schools that have a long way to grow, and that we've got to do something different to accelerate generational poverty, the exodus from generational poverty and low achievement. And so that's one of the things we are considering.
So speaking of an exodus from generational poverty, as you mentioned, what do you see as we continue to try to educate children with all the challenges that we have in public schools with recruitment and retention, all the things that we've already mentioned, as well as others? What do you see that we might need to tighten up on or do a better job of as we move forward to try to make sure that we protect this thing we call public education?
Well, I think we have to advocate for fair funding, number one.
Yeah.
Because we've got to be able to pay good teachers. We've got to be able to pay good principals because they're number one and number two in the research. This is a school district that's historically underfunded. The Commonwealth Court here in Pennsylvania has ruled that our system for funding schools is unconstitutional. That's been a big development since I've arrived here, and we're excited about what may happen as a result there. I think we've also got to really redouble our efforts to recruit the very best teachers and to retain them. We know that teachers don't and the other staff don't get into this business just for the money. They leave sometimes because of their immediate supervisor and for lack of support. And so we've got to build more support for our teachers in particular and principals. And then the third thing I think we have to do to protect this public education thing that you and I have been doing for a long time, is really build stronger bridges and partnerships with our parents and community, because they are our children's first teachers. And so I think those three things are things that we've just got to continue to double down and do the very best we can.
So what are some of the accolades and achievements that you want to talk to us about that in your career so far, maybe with Philly for sure, but also maybe just in your career so far, some of the things that you're most proud of?
Well, I'm sure proud to have spent a number of years in one school district where I had in Guilford County, North Carolina. I had the good fortune to move from being a teacher all the way up to the chief of schools. Sure. And having started in another school district, Harnett County, as a bus driver and a custodian. In that district, I was really pleased to be a part of a team that figured out a strategy to increase academic performance for all students, all student groups, by race, ethnicity, whether it's African American, white, Latino Latinx students with disabilities, English language learner students, and to do that in reading and math at all grade levels. It took a really great deal of strategy, teamwork. Now, Having said that, I also understand that our students, our scholars, are more than a test score.
Right.
We were very focused on making sure that we meet their social and emotional needs, particularly as we got into the throes of the pandemic. And we did some really good work to give our young people an opportunity to participate in what I like to refer to as the world's largest economy. Because even though the U.S. has the world's largest economy, too often people who look like you and me, Dr. Wright, just don't get that opportunity to get that uh, to get their piece of the pie, if you will. And certainly in Rowan Salisbury schools, work with a really fine team of educators to improve our relative ranking in third grade reading. And so I think that's really important. Third grade reading is a gateway to how kids are going to perform later in school. I was really interested in Rowan Salisbury and this new accountability model that we were working to build, where academic performance skills was one piece of that triangle, along with interpersonal skills and helping young people to develop their unique life goals. And so I think accountability models that look at multiple measures and see kids more than just one test score, and look at a growth model, not just an A, B, C, D, F grade model, with some really exciting work down in Rowan Salisbury schools. And so I wish that district well as they continue to build out that local accountability model.
And you talked a little bit about interpersonal skills. Speak to us a little bit more about that. Why is that so important for today's youth moving forward, in your opinion?
It's so important because, interpersonal skills, people often refer to as the soft skills, really are key skills. When one of my three sons, if they decide to, they one day they want to get married and they bring someone to meet their dad, I'm not going to ask the person, tell me what your 11th grade algebra 2 score was. I'm going to kind of want to know, what kind of person are you? Are you a person of your word? Are you a person of integrity? Are you trustworthy? Do you show up on time? The same kind of things you want to know when we have to decide whether we want to hire somebody in one of our school districts. And sometimes what I've learned is we've got to explicitly teach those skills. Sometimes being punctual, putting that cell phone down, paying attention, being able to follow directions the first time, being able to work in a team or a group environment. All those interpersonal skills, the soft skills, I'll tell you what, in North Carolina, employers told me that's one of the first things they look for. I've heard the same thing in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, that people want young people that have good soft skills and can be dependable. And so I think that in addition to parents, I think there's a place for schools to explicitly teach some of those skills as well.
So that's a part of the total pie, is what you're saying. We got to get the academics right, sure, but we also need to teach some interpersonal skills. We also talked earlier about the mental health component, and certainly we've all got challenges with that. How do we motivate young folks to embrace this profession that we are in now? How do we get them into education, or back into education, maybe?
That's a great question, Dr. Wright. I think on the one hand, those of us in the profession have to talk the profession up. Certainly don't talk the profession down. So when someone says, I'm a teacher, those of us in this profession can't say, yeah, and it's a hard job, it's a thankless job. We have to value it, and we have to represent the profession well. I think we've got to encourage more young people to consider this as a valid career, a good career. The Pew study, no, was it the Gallup? No, Phi Delta Kappa study in 1969 found that about 75% of Americans would encourage their own children to become teachers. And last time I looked, that number was well in a minority, like 30% or so.
That's right.
And if we don't get good teachers, who are the number one factor in student growth and academic attainment, how in the world will we continue to be the world's largest economy? How will we continue to have the world's strongest military? And how will we grow the middle class in this country, which public school educators did in this country. So I think we got to talk the profession up. We got to put our money where our mouth is. We got to pay people better, all across the United States. And then third, I think we've got to treat people well.
That's right.
And retain them so that we can retain them.
That's right. Treat them like we want to be treated, and make sure
Absolutely.
they have the things that they need to be successful. So much, and the profession has to become appealing again. I was we had convocation Tuesday, and so I made a point to students were behind me on the stage that were band students. How many of y'all want to be teachers? I didn't get one hand raised. So so we got to work on that, and that is, I think you're so accurate in that it's got to come from us, those of us that enjoy the profession and are still dedicated to it. We're going to have to be the ambassadors and the marketers for us to get and retain people in the future. We got to pay them too. We got to make sure that people are compensated. And I commend you guys for doing what you're doing for paraprofessionals. I think that's a great idea and a great segue to try to get some people that are going to be dedicated, continue to be dedicated to your district.
Dr. Wright, we're after the pandemic, we're struggling to retain so many job roles.
Sure.
From bus drivers to food service staff. We reorganized the district this year to create a new position called the Chief Learning Officer. Okay. And what the Chief Learning Officer does is responsible for providing ongoing professional development for teachers, principals, bus drivers. They call them bus chauffeurs here. Mm-hmm. Every job role, we want people to get good annual training and development, because you think about it, in Supt, South Carolina, and the School District of Philadelphia, other districts, most districts spend north of 75% of their budget on people and benefits. We're a people-intensive organization, and we just got to provide training so that they have the support they need to do the job.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. Dr. Watlington, as we get close to the end of what we're doing this evening, do you have any further information that you'd like to share with our audience at this point that might be of help?
I will just say that if you know anybody who's moving to the Philadelphia area that's a teacher or a principal, give them my name, refer them to the Dr. William T. Wright Jr. show so they can watch this and know that this is a full cameo. I'm going to do a shameless plug. We're looking for educators and support staff, but outside of sending people north instead of people going from the north south, I'll just say we're really excited about what we're going to do with this under the strategic plan, Accelerate Philly. And it's an audacious plan. We want to be the fastest improving large urban school district in the country. And I think we absolutely have the expertise and the know-how. We have good communities who want the best for their children. I'll also say that I'm really excited to see what happens here in Philadelphia, since this is the birthplace of democracy, where the Declaration of Independence and the U.S. Constitution were signed. Mm-hmm. And it's also the nation's largest poor city. And so the way we get out of that, we change that trajectory for this very, very fine city is through education. And we've got good support in the state legislature. We've got some good support among the city council, and a great school board. And so we think we have all the ingredients here. And we certainly hope that the lawsuit about school funding, where the current state has been ruled unconstitutional, will result in a significant increase in funding. Don't know how that's working down in South Carolina, but we're sure we've all got our eyes open and our hands out here in Pennsylvania, and hoping for some significant increases in our funding. So we're going to do some great things together here in the School District of Philadelphia. So I'd love to be able to come back from time to time and be able to check in with you. And I want to learn from the good work you're doing down in Supt, South Carolina too.
Well, thank you, my brother. And that invitation is open at any time. We're going to make sure that happens. We are certainly admiring and proud of the work that you're doing in the School District of Philadelphia. And I know that they already know it, but those 215 schools and 200,000 students have a great leader. And we're certainly proud of the work that you're doing. And look forward to continuing to hear those great things that you're doing, and look forward to the collaborative work that we're going to do together. And just want to take this opportunity also to say, kind of in a closing thing here, that this work that we do, we have leaders that are in the midst of very stressful times. I'll just say it that way. And so every time we get an opportunity to lift up educational leaders, educators in general, please take the opportunity to do this. In my district, we're just starting the school year in the school district of Philadelphia. They've got about another month, and then they'll be starting. And all of us in education need encouragement and uplifting.
Absolutely.
So that we can do the very best that we can do for children. Dr. Watlington, again, thank you very much for being a part of the Wright experience tonight. And I know our audience certainly thoroughly enjoyed having you here. And we're going to hold you to it. We're going to keep checking in on you and giving you those opportunities to come back and be a part of this work that we're trying to do here. And
count me in.
Yeah,
my alpha brother, count me in. Thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you very much. And to the Wright Experience audience, we'd like to say good evening.